There was always a sense of joy around Jesus, like the time he was at the wedding joining in with the festivities. Jesus miraculously provided new wine. They exclaimed, "This is the best we've ever tasted." There was joy unspeakable, turning mourning into dancing. Jesus, the life and soul of the party. Hello everyone, this is Saving Grace Church. We're back again and we're still in the Gospel of John. This is John chapter 11. Over to you, brother.
Yeah, this is the wonderful book of John, chapter 11. Now a certain man was sick, Lazarus of Bethany, the town of Mary and her sister Martha. It was that Mary who anointed the Lord with fragrant oil and wiped his feet with her hair, whose brother Lazarus was sick. Therefore the sister sent to him, saying, Lord, behold, he whom you love is sick. When Jesus heard that, he said, This sickness is not unto death, but for the glory of God, that the Son of God may be glorified through it.
See, they were
glorified on the healings, isn't they?
Yeah, they were childhood friends as well.
Now Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus. So when he heard that he was sick, he stayed 2 more days in the place where he was. Then after this, he said to the disciples, Let us go to Judea again. The disciples said to him, Rabbi, lately the Jews sought to stone you, and you are going to there again? And Jesus answered, Are there not 12 hours in the day? If anyone walks in the day, he doesn't stumble, because he sees the light of this world. But if one walks in the night, he stumbles, because the light is not in him. These things he said, and after that he said to them, Our friend Lazarus sleeps, but I go that I may wake him up.
See, this darkness in the believers is a type, isn't it, of what's to come. Because, as we've said before, nowhere in the Gospels before the cross could anybody be saved. There was no Christians in the Gospels. So don't read yourself into this. Just glean from what Jesus is saying, but glean it through the cross.
Our friend Lazarus sleeps, but I go that I may wake him up. Then his disciples said, Lord, if he sleeps, he will get well. However, Jesus spoke of his death, but they thought he was speaking about him taking rest in sleep.
He did this before, didn't he, with that girl, Jairus' daughter. He used that reference as well, didn't he? Sleeping. And then they all started laughing, didn't they? She's not sleeping, she's dead.
Then Jesus said to them plainly, Lazarus is dead, and I am glad for your sakes that I was not there, that you may believe. Nevertheless, let us go to him. Then Thomas, who is called the twin, said to his fellow disciples, Let us also go, that we may die with him. So when Jesus came, he found that he had already been in the tomb 4 days. Now Bethany was near Jerusalem, about 2 miles away, and many of the Jews had joined the women around Martha and Mary to comfort them concerning their brother. Then Martha, as soon as she heard that Jesus was coming, went and met him, but Mary was sitting in the house. Now Martha said to Jesus, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. But even I know that whatever you ask of God, God will give you.
So if you need anything, any healing or anything like that, just ask us. This is our prayer line. The number has always been in the description underneath the videos since day one. So if you're in another part of the world, it's +44, and then leave out the 0 on the number, and then ring the rest of the number, and you'll get through to us.
So Jesus said to her, Your brother will rise again. Martha said to him, I know that he will rise again in the resurrection on the last day. But Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me, though he may die, he shall live. And whoever lives and believes in me shall never die. Do you believe this? She said to him, Yes, Lord, I believe that you are the Christ, the Son of God, who is to come into the world. But he's already in the world, isn't he?
Mm.
And when she had said these things, she went her way and secretly called Mary her sister, saying, This teacher has come and is calling for you.
Do you notice as well, actually, when she said that you are the Christ? That's Peter as well, wasn't it?
Mm.
Said, you are the Christ, the Son of the living God.
Yeah.
She recognised who he was.
As soon as she heard that, she arose quickly and came to him. Now Jesus had not yet come into the town, but was in the place where Martha met him. Then the Jews who were with her in the house and comforted her, when they saw that Mary rose up quickly and went out, following her, saying, She is going to the tomb to weep there. That's to mourn.
You see, you've got to realise as well, it's not just a male-centred gospel, but a female-centred gospel as well, isn't it? Because God can use women as well.
Yeah.
Not just the men. I mean, look at Anna. She was a prophetess, wasn't she? The baby Jesus was brought to the temple, and she said, she spoke about him, didn't she?
Yeah.
So that's amazing, isn't it? God can use women mightily. Look at Catherine Kuhlman. She saw thousands healed, didn't she?
Yeah. Then when Mary came where Jesus was and saw him, she fell down at his feet, saying to him, Lord, if you had been there, my brother would not have died. Therefore, when Jesus saw her weeping, and the Jews who came with her weeping, he groaned in the spirit and was troubled. And he said, Where have you laid him?
Mm.
They said to him, Lord, come and see. Because they're weeping and mourning, full of unbelief, aren't they?
Yeah.
So it troubled. It's like when...
Because they think that death is final, don't they? Whereas Jesus said that he's the resurrection and the life.
And another story where the young girl died and the father brought Jesus, and Jesus to get all the mourners out of here.
That was Jairus' daughter.
Yeah. Get all the mourners out of there. And then he went in and just raised her from the dead.
Get rid of the unbelief.
Yeah. Jesus wept, and then the Jews said, See how he loved him. And some of them said, Could not this man who opened the eyes of the blind also have kept this man from dying?
Do you know, there's a really good thing there, actually. I've never seen this before until now. But when it says Jesus wept, that shows his humanity, doesn't it? Because everybody, some people could think, well, it's God in the flesh, isn't it?
Yeah.
But Jesus is fully man and fully God, because God can't die, and God had to send a man to die for everyone, didn't he?
Yeah, so that he had to overcome. Jesus had to overcome his emotions, didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
So then Jesus, again groaning himself, came to the tomb. It was a cave and a stone lay against it. Jesus said, Take away the stone. Martha, the sister of him who was dead, said to him, Lord, by this time there is a stench, for he had been dead 4 days. Jesus said to her, Did I not say to you that if you would believe you would see the glory of God? Then they took away the stone from the place where the dead man was lying. And Jesus lifted up his eyes and said, Father, I thank you that you have heard me, and I know that you always hear me because of the people who are standing by. I said this, that they may believe that you sent me. Now when he had said these things, he cried with a loud voice, Lazarus, come forth. And he who had died came out, bound hand and foot, with grave clothes, and his face was wrapped with a cloth. Jesus said to them, Loose him and let him go.
See, we can do this as well, can't we? Because, Jesus and the Father are one, and he who is joined to the Lord is one spirit with the Lord.
Yeah, if you believe, so you just have to have faith and do it.
Yeah,
and act on your faith.
It's knowing that you know, isn't it? Rather than getting these wet blankets around you, you'll end up coming down to their level, and then you'll never get anything done.
So you loose and let him go, so we can loose. God gives the power to loose.
He says, whatever you loose on earth is loosed in heaven.
Yeah.
Whatever you bind on earth is bound in heaven.
Then many of the Jews who had come to Mary and seen these things Jesus did believed in him. But some of them went away to the Pharisees and told them the things Jesus did. Then the chief priests and the Pharisees gathered a council and said, What shall we do? For this man works many signs. If we let him alone like this, everyone will believe in him, and the Romans will come and take away both our place and nation.
Well, they were going to do it anyway. They didn't realise, did they? But they did it anyway in AD 70.
Well, they were under the Romans anyway.
Yeah, they were. Because they couldn't kill a man. They could sacrifice an animal, but they couldn't kill a man. So that's why they had to sought Pilate's permission to have Jesus crucified.
So the Pharisees thought, oh yeah, well, when everyone gets to know these signs and wonders, they're all going to believe him, and they're going to stone them, aren't they?
Yeah.
They'll say he's a Messiah, because they were thinking he was going to be on David's throne, and he'll be the king of the Jews, and we'll all be killed. But
later on, it was the Pharisees that stirred up the people, wasn't it, to free Barabbas instead of Jesus.
Yeah, because they wanted. That's why they had the council, innit? Because they were thinking, oh, we've got to kill him now, because if he gets too big, we'll be killed.
Yeah.
They're thinking in the flesh, aren't they?
They didn't believe that parable either, did they? That Jesus said, that when you take away the bridegroom, the owner is going to come in and destroy, kill everybody else that's there. Talking about the Pharisees.
And one of them, Caiaphas, being high priest that year, said to them, you know nothing at all, nor do you consider that it is expedient for us that one man should die for the people, and now not that the whole nation should perish. So he didn't know he was prophesying the cross, did he?
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? Because sometimes when you're speaking for God, you don't realise you're speaking for God, do you? Until afterwards, somebody says, that's amazing, that was so accurate what you said. And you're thinking, wow, Yeah,
because now this he did not say in his own authority, but being high priest that year, he prophesied that Jesus would die for the nation.
Yeah.
And not for the nation only, but also that he would gather together in one the children of God who were scattered abroad.
One new man.
Yeah, so it's the unbeliever as well. Then from that day on, they plotted to put him to death. Therefore Jesus no longer walked openly among the Jews, but went from there into the country near the wilderness, to a city called Ephraim, and there remained with his disciples. And the Passover of the Jews was near, and many went from the country up to Jerusalem before the Passover to purify themselves. Then they sought Jesus and spoke among themselves as they stood in the temple, what do you think, that he will not come to the feast? Now both the chief priests and the Pharisees had given a command that if anyone knew where he was, he should report it, that they might seize him, because they wanted to get hold of him before he got too big.
Yeah, and the thing was as well, just going back a little bit, they had to purify themselves, didn't they?
Yeah.
Whereas under the cross, under the New Testament, he purifies us, doesn't he?
Yeah, of one purification, and we're cleansed forever.
Cleansed forever.
But in God's eyes, because they were under the law, they kept sinning and sinning, they had to keep getting purified over and over, didn't they?
And the thing was as well, it was once a year, unlike modern day church, where it's 1 John 1:9. 1 John 1:9 every single time you sin, you've got to keep confessing it all the time.
And see, 1 John 1:9, you could use that as just a relationship with Jesus, but not to your salvation. But they turn it into, if you don't do it, you lose your salvation.
Yeah, it's actually your kind of modern day prayer of salvation at the end, isn't it? Yeah. You've done your meeting, you've done your worship, your offering, and the word, and then at the end you do an altar call, don't you? And 1 John chapter 1 is talking to unbelievers. It's an invitation into the kingdom of heaven.
I've done a good video on 1 John 9, so you need to check that out.
Yeah, I'll stick it on the end.
Yeah, you have to go into certain understandings of who it's written to, why it's written, blah blah blah. Then you get the full juiciness out of it, don't you?
Yeah, journalists call it who, why, what, when. It's getting the exegesis, getting it in context.
Facts and everything.
There's one God, only one, and one priest mediator between God and us, Jesus, who offered himself in exchange for everyone to set them all free.